Back to TMZ Live, and there is a growing list of people in the hip-hop community who are advocating for a pardon for a rapper named Ralo. Ralo is facing nearly 10 years in prison for the sale of 440 pounds of marijuana. Marijuana, which of course is legalized in many states, and that list keeps growing every day. But Drake, 2 Chainz, Killer Mike, Meek Mill have all spoken out on his behalf, and just think that this sentence just doesn't fit the crime.
It shouldn't be. I'm sorry, should not be a crime. Go on.
Right. Well, one of the people leading the charge for Ralo's release is Weldon Angelos, who is a very famous producer, was a producer in the biz, worked with a lot of big names, including Snoop, and he himself went through this very same process, but he was sentenced to 55 years in prison. And there's a whole story behind why. Now he is out. He got clemency from President Obama and was recently pardoned by President Trump. So he is now, I think, trying to pay it forward after his release. So joining us right now is Weldon Angelos. Weldon, welcome to TMZ Live.
Hey, Weldon.
Hey, thanks for having me.
We are happy to have you. I got to say, first of all, so people understand, you got sentenced to 55 years for $900 of pot?
Yep. It was so outrageous. Even the judge balked at the sentence that he was forced to impose.
That's just outrageous.
We should explain to people why the judge and why the judge had to impose this. And I'm just curious, has this changed the law that basically got you 55 years?
Yeah, so basically the charges that the prosecutor charged me with were mandatory, meaning the judge had no discretion. His hands were tied by the mandatory minimum. And so all he could do was go down kicking and screaming, which is what he did. He made such a big a fit over it that it resulted in the change in the law, the First Step Act. And so that provision that gave me 55 years is no longer a law anymore.
So with Ralo, it's a little bit different because we're talking 440 pounds, I believe, of weed.
Yeah, so Ralo's situation is a little bit different. But at the same time, there are people making millions and billions for selling, tens of thousands of pounds, in other states, and they're not being prosecuted federally, even though they both violated federal statutes. And that's why it's so unjust to incarcerate some, but allow, mostly the elite and mostly, older white men to prosper while locking up people of color like Ralo.
So, Weldon, it seems like we were talking about a federal offense here that at some point you're going to need the help of the Biden administration. Have you had contact with them, and what are they willing to do?
Absolutely. So the White House counsel reached out to a number of advocates, including myself, and it seems that they're putting together some kind of clemency program like Obama did, and they're going to put marijuana in the focus. These people in there who are still locked up for marijuana, are probably the most deserving group of offender, given that it's legalized in, more than half the country.
So what is White House counsel telling you? I mean, it's just interesting to me because on the one hand, they're talking about a clemency program for people with these low-level drug offenses. On the other hand, they're not willing to go full bore and legalize. So it just feels like there's this resistance that's coming from somewhere.
Right. So I think when Biden was on the campaign trail and at the debates, he made clear that he didn't support, recreational marijuana, but he believed that people shouldn't be incarcerated for it and people shouldn't have a felony on their record for doing it. And so this clemency push, seems to be in line with, his campaign promises.
So are you feeling like you've accomplished something here? And is what the administration is talking about, is that going to help Ralo in time? Because he's already pled guilty, right? And when is his sentencing scheduled for?
Yeah, so sentencing is not scheduled yet. But if this clemency program is launched, this would apply to people like Ralo. Even under Trump, we were able to get individuals out who were serving life sentences for marijuana. And so we're hoping that the Biden administration does something on a larger scale.
I wanted to ask you about your experience. We said that you got clemency in 2016, but you were in prison for at least about almost 12 years, right? Mm.
Yeah, about 13.
When you got out, how important was it to you? Did you know at that moment that this was going to be your mission, as opposed to, getting back into the music industry that you decided to start Mission Green?
Yeah, so when I got out, I had those two options. Do I want to try to get back in music and get my life and career back? But before I got out, a lot of people looked at me and was like, you need to help us. You have an amazing platform and network. Utilize that to get us out because there's no one else out there helping us. And I had a lot of people helping me. The majority of people in prison don't have celebrity friends or political figures pushing for them. So I knew I had to be that voice.
Weldon, what you and Mission Green, what you're doing is, like you said, helping people who don't have celebrity friends who can advocate for them. So thank you, and we wish you the best.
Absolutely.
Thanks for having me.